So most people know Houbigant for fragrances such as Fougere Royale for men and Quelques Fleurs for the ladies. But we now have 4 new fragrances that are soon to drop. I believe they're already dropped in the EU or in the European Union. And it's a collection called La Collection Orientale, and they have 4 fragrances that are focused on patchouli, amber, tobacco, and oud. So I'm excited for these fragrances. I haven't sampled them yet. I never got to sample them during Excellence. I don't remember. I think they were there. The brand was there. But I never made it to their booth. But I'm excited for these because they're some of my favorite notes or types of fragrances that I really like. So they also have 4 fragrances targeted to men in a similar bottle collection that I'm going to go over as well, which includes Fougere Royale. So if you're curious to learn about these new fragrances and find out about their past fragrances, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian. Yes, today we're talking about Houbigant. Houbigant is known for Fougere Royale and Quelques Fleurs, but now we have a new collection called La Collection Orientale. There's 4 fragrances dropping very soon, and I'm excited for these fragrances. My favorite fragrance from this house is Fougere Royale, of course, but they have BOIS Mystique, which I also really like, and a few other fragrances as well. Are you guys a fan of this house? Do let me know. Let's go ahead and get started with the first fragrance. I don't have the fragrances. I haven't sampled them, as I said. But the first one is Patchouli Sauvage, and it's a co-creation between Luca Maffei and Antoine Lee. I did a video with Luca Maffei at his facility in Milan last year. If you are curious to watch that video, go catch it. And at that time I found out that Luca Maffei and Antoine Lee worked together. Didn't even know that, which is kind of cool. And this is the most exciting out of the entire collection of the 4 new fragrances. Features notes of patchouli, dried fruits, bergamot, grapefruit, amber, cedar, tonka, sandalwood, vetiver, and labdanum. So eventually it does have some woody, ambery dry down, it sounds like, but the idea of meshing patchouli with dried fruits sounds really, really exciting. It doesn't seem like it's going to go into that chocolate cakey direction because the ambery types of notes are not very prominent here, it seems like. There's no vanilla, there's labdanum mentioned here, but this seems to me it's going more into a greener direction, citrusy, fruity, but of course dried fruity direction. So this one really sounds great. Not that I'm being burned out on, you know, chocolate cakey patchouli fragrances, but I have plenty. There's a lot out there, and something new sounds really, really great. So the second fragrance in this La Collection Orientale is Ambre de Abysses. So once again, co-creation between Luca Maffei and Antoine Lee. And we've got notes of amber, oakmoss, leather, vanilla, tonka, rosemary, geranium, jasmine, patchouli, orange blossom, and mint. The mint scares me in this one. I don't know how the mint is added to an amber fragrance, but I can only, you know, report back and let you know it either works or it doesn't work by smelling it or getting my nose on it. But it seems like with the amber and oak moss together sounds really great. The addition of leather as well and vanilla, and I like the idea of ambers with vanilla, resins, spices, aromatics, and this one actually has the patchouli and also geranium and orange blossom, so we've got kind of an aromatic experience there and also citrus floral experience. The only thing that's kind of rubbing me the wrong way is the mint, so we shall see how this one is, but I'm excited for this one, but not as excited as the Patchouli Sauvage. Which one of these 2 sounds great to you? Do let me know. Put a comment down below so I can find out. Okay, the third fragrance in the series, La Collection Orientale series, is Tabac Nomade. This one also sounds really, really great to me. Once again, it's a Luca Maffei Antoine Lee co-creation. It features notes of tobacco, of course. There's saffron, tonka beans, bergamot, spices, vanilla, leather, and rose. So it seems like this is going to go into a leathery direction with the tobacco, with the fact that we've got saffron and leather in here as well. But I like the idea of having vanilla and spices. And I always really like tonka beans and tobacco fragrances. It seems like they complement one another, and I believe tonka beans already have a tobacco-ish quality. I think it can go into multiple directions from what I've heard and noticed when they're used in fragrances. So I like the sound of this one a lot more than the amber, but again, it could be just, it sounds great on paper, but when I get my nose on it, it could be a complete disappointment, whereas the amber one sounds not as exciting, and how you get your nose on it, it's the better of the two kind of a thing. So I'm really, really curious to try these fragrances. Here in San Francisco, we have Houbigant sold at Neiman Marcus. And unfortunately, they have a sister brand called Paris Monte Carlo, Perris, and that brand is no longer sold. They've gotten removed. But Houbigant is still sold at Neiman Marcus, so I can always go check them out over there. And the last fragrance in the La Collection Orientale is called Oud Or. Once again, a co-creation between Luca Maffei and Antoine Lee. I'm curious to try a nude fragrance, and this one does sound interesting. They've got oud with ISOE Super, with Cashmeran, Saffron, Labdanum, Raspberry, Orange Blossom, Rose, Geranium, Patchouli. This one actually sounds a little more exciting than the Ambre. Again, it seems like oud with woodsy notes and musky notes, and Saffron again in here with the idea that it can be spicy and leathery at the same time. And we've got, we've got Rose, and then once again Orange Blossom and Geranium, and then of course Patchouli. So the Oud Or sounds exciting. I can only, wait to put my nose on these fragrances and report back and let you know what you guys, what I think about each of them for you guys. But if you've gotten your nose on these fragrances yet, let me know. Put a comment down below so I can find out. Let's go ahead and talk about the 4 existing fragrances in this collection. So the first fragrance I'm going to talk to you about is Fougere Royale. Fougere Royale is probably one of the most popular men's barbershop fougere fragrances on the market today. It was originally launched in the late 1800s. I've got videos on Fougere Royale on the channel. If you're curious to learn more about it, please do a search for Fougere, and all the videos on Fougeres will show up. And I'm speaking to a local independent perfumer on the creation of the first Fougere fragrance, so you can learn about that. So Houbigant launched the first Fougere back in the late 1800s, and then they relaunched it in 2010 as this. So it comes in an eau de parfum concentration. It also comes in a parfum concentration. The parfum is a lot more luxurious, but also a lot more expensive. It was redone by Rodrigo Flores Roux. Features notes of lavender with geranium, oak moss, green notes, chamomile, carnation, clary sage, tonka beans, patchouli, cinnamon, and bergamot. So recently, Amouage discontinued their Bracken Man, and I found the two to be similar, not identical. I felt like Bracken Man focused more on spices like cloves, so it was kind of similar to this with an amped up spiciness. Here we don't have that cloviness, although we have carnation note in here, so it can remind you a bit of clove, but it's more floral in this case. But it's amped up lavender with geranium. There's tonka beans or coumarin in here as well, along with oak moss and green notes. It's a great fragrance. I think it's one of the best barbershop fragrances out there. If you haven't gotten your nose on it and you really enjoy the barbershop fragrances, definitely get your nose on it. The only thing I should mention is the next 4 fragrances, the ones that are currently out like this in these bottles, are male targeted, and the new fragrances I believe are unisex targeted. But in the end, if you're a woman and you enjoy the smell of barbershop fragrances, wear it, So Fougere Royale is, I think, my favorite in this collection, and I'll tell you the next one. This is Cologne Intense, which is in this bottle. This is a 2015 launch, and I think I mentioned that 2010 was when they relaunched Fougere Royale. Cologne Intense is created by Luca Maffei in 2015, and it features notes of mate, tarragon, lemons, petitgrain, jasmine, bergamot, neroli, incense, pink pepper, and lavender. I think this is a different take on a cologne style fragrance in that it highlights the mate and tarragon. I believe this is kind of an acquired taste for people. It's not necessarily traditional. I think the mate has this kind of a green, grassy, a weedy kind of texture and smell in the fragrance that it might be a bit off-putting. But if you get used to it and enjoy this kind of smell, I think this will satisfy you. It's got flowers, and it's got lots of spices, and of course citrus touches, and there's the aromatics of lavender, and there's a bit of smoky incense running throughout it. So it's an unusual kind of a take on a fragrance. Probably the weakest out of the 4 I'm going to talk to you about, but still I feel like if you can get used to something like this, you should definitely check it out. And also if you like the idea of mate in fragrances. So Cologne Intense. Probably is my least favorite in the collection of the 4 so far, I'm going to tell you, that are currently on the market. The next one I'm going to talk to you about is the 3rd fragrance that came out in this series called BOIS Mystique, this one right here, launched in 2018 and created by Luca Maffei. So this is my 2nd favorite after FOUGERE ROYALE. In fact, I've given a bottle of this to my nephew. He supposedly swears that it's the most luxurious fragrance he wears, and I've given him Creed and things like that, so he's really loved this one. I've actually turned it on to a few men who like kind of like classy, masculine, woody fragrances, and they've really fallen in love with it. But this one features notes of cardamom with cedar, there's incense, pink pepper, cypriol, myrrh, cashmere wood, ginger, neroli, black pepper, bergamot, iris, and gaiac wood. Did I say it was created by Luca Maffei, launched in 2018? There is a bit of a hint of Royal Oud by Creed. This one seems not as thin as the Creed Royal Oud. There's definitely a lot more substance here, and there's also a creaminess here with the woodiness. It wears very kind of soft, not as in like light fragrance, but soft as in like a very creamy texture with the woods that are in here. But cardamom is very, very prominent. There's a bit of a smokiness in here, a bit resinous touch, and of course spices and citruses come in as well. And I feel like there is definitely a bit powdery characteristic in here as well, but a great smell. I think this is a solid fragrance. It's BOIS Mystique from Houbigant. And then the last fragrance, which is the latest fragrance launched last year, it's Figuier Noir. This would be my 3rd favorite fragrance. And I'm a big fan of fig fragrances. This fig fragrance on me is extremely peppery, like uber peppery. And even though they mentioned there's fig fruit here, I don't get much of the fruitiness. It's a 2022 launch, and it's created by Céline Elena, who is the daughter of Jean-Claude Elena. So Jean-Claude Elena does Houbigant fragrances, and now we've got the daughter here as well. Fig leaf, cardamom, black fig, figs, iris, jasmine, cedar, patchouli, cloves, candied fruits. I wish I had a little more sweetness in here, because it leans very one-dimensional, and again, it's very, very peppery. There's a pepperiness with figs as in the leaves in general, and this one is an overwhelming amount of it. It doesn't develop into much sweetness, if that makes sense. But if you like the idea of green, bitter, peppery fig leaves in a fragrance, you might really dig this one. But fig leaf is definitely prominent, and the cardamom is definitely prominent as well. And again, I don't get the black fig or the figs in general, the fruitiness, and I wanted a little bit of that to kind of balance out the fragrance. I do get the powderiness and lots of woodiness in here, and that's basically the fragrance. But I know there's fans of this one out there. People swear that it's like some of the best fig fragrances. Yes, I agree. It's a really great fig fragrance, but it really leans very, very peppery on me. And that's just the way it wears on me. But how does it wear on you guys? Do let me know. And again, number 4 would be Cologne Intense. Number 3 would be Figuier Noir. Number 2 would be BOIS Mystique. And of course, my favorite in this series is FOUGERE ROYALE. So that's basically all I have for you today in this video. What are your thoughts on this collection of fragrances that are currently existing and the new fragrances that are coming out? Do you have a favorite of the currently existing fragrances? And does one of the new ones sound great to you? Do let me know. Put a comment down below, and I'd like to find out. And that's all I have for you guys today. If you have any questions or comments, please do list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.